if I go back to my reflection when I had my agency, I have so many good times and so many great positive things that happened during those 10 to 11 years that I had that agency. So I think we dedicate this episode today to why you would own an agency. Why would you own an agency?
Yeah.
We talk about like the negative. Why in the world would you own an agency?
Why would you do it?
Why in the world would you do it? And so today is why you would do it.
Your angle in the world from an agency's perspective. Honest truth, I've worked with or for a handful of agencies, either as a CMO hiring them in or as an employee.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, the owner is a beautiful freak show. And while he's a lot, he's also super, super smart, super, super creative, and like brings a lot to the table. And so you're like, yeah, I've said this before with agency owners, your clients buy, especially if you're under 25 people or 50 people, right? They're buying you, the owner. That is the purpose. So if you're, being you and your true self, awesome. That means your clients are going to self-select. The kinds of people who love you are going to pick you. And the kinds that really, really don't, you're better off.
I just had that discussion in a coaching session last week with an agency owner. I said the agency's you, and it's the people doing the work, but you are doing the selling. You're the face of the agency, and you
100%.
Don't think this is true, and it is 100% true. And let's
100%.
talk about how to turn that into something that's going to go well for you. So I went back and looked at LinkedIn profiles of the people that worked for me. Back when I had my agency, and just kind of checked up on them, and I went through, and it really feels good seeing that they all moved into these really great leadership roles in marketing.
That's cool.
or deep level expertise in something, and they're doing well. You can tell they're making good money based on just the role in the companies they're working for. Wow, man, that's payback. It was one of your dogs was snoring. And so I was listening to it. I'm like, is Trice that boring?
You're welcome. No snoring dogs, no English bulldog snoring, which is, some of the worst snoring there is, frankly. So. Hey, welcome to another edition of The Growth Engine. I'm Trice Alford. This is Ryan Parshall. Ryan, what's up, man? How are you?
I am good today. I did finish editing our last episode of The Growth Engine show.
Wow.
And as I was listening through it, we had some sound effects coming in that I don't think we knew was happening.
Oh.
Coming off of your mic, unfortunately, Trice. Can you guess what that might have been?
It was dogs barking.
No,
it was close. Dogs barking. Is it either that or me drinking? One of the two.
It was one of your dogs was snoring. And so I was listening to it. I'm like, is Trice that boring?
Yeah. Well, on the upside, I planned ahead today, and they are all sleeping downstairs. So,
good.
No dogs up here today. So, all you at home, you're welcome. No snoring dogs, no English bulldog snoring, which is, some of the worst snoring there is, frankly. So,
yeah, I found myself just, peacefully kind of drifting off as I was listening to it. And I was like, maybe the dog's got the right idea.
Yeah. Normally, and the thing is, she sleeps normally like right here too. So, So it's like this mic picks up everything. So yeah, that's really funny. So
it totally did.
Well,
so yeah.
Sorry, people out there who had to bear the brunt of that, but welcome to another exciting edition where we got an interesting topic today. I'm excited about it because we realize sometimes we don't always shine the light on a lot of the positive things about being an agency owner. So we really thought we'd shift gears a little bit, and both of us would come up with some thoughts about that. And Ryan, you want to jump in and tell us a little bit why we think this is a good topic and what your first thoughts are?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think we focus a lot on challenges because we want to help people, right? Like if everything's going great and you're having an awesome time, like we just pat you on the back. You really don't need much help, right? Like, that's great. We want things to go well for you. So the topics that we do focus on, you're right. I think they tend to go towards like, oh, look how hard this is. I actually think that it's good to just be aware of those challenges and to try to like solve those problems as you go. But if I go back to my reflection when I had my agency, I have so many good times and so many great positive things that happened during those 10 to 11 years that I had that agency. So I think we dedicate this episode today to why you would own an agency. Why would you own an agency? We talk about, like, the negative. Why in the world would you own an agency?
Why would you do it?
Why in the world would you do it? And so today is why you would do it, and the things that kind of center around it, things I've enjoyed. And so we blindly have wrote down some bullet points of things we'd like to say.
Yes.
We have not shared them with each other.
Right.
We're going to see if we match up, if they're different. In a lot of ways, I hope they're different. And so, I know you've got a few more points than I do. So Trice, let her rip. What do you got?
All right. So mine are really straightforward, and they're all positive things, but they're more like, for the most part, sort of internal things, not necessarily outward rewarding kinds of things. So the first one is, right, the number one, there's opportunity here, right? Like, there's an opportunity to make a great living for yourself, for a lot of people, like, there's a really, no matter what size or shape or focus you have, there's an opportunity to make a lot of money if you really want to do it, and there's a lot of sacrifice involved, but this is great business. Frankly, it's high margin. That's number one. Number two,
it can be high margin.
It can be high margin. It hopefully is high margin for you. Yeah, exactly.
Price right.
Right, exactly right. So number two is the idea of building something, right? Like, one, you get to build a business that's yours. That's incredibly satisfying. Two, build a team of people, like, that's super cool. And build a focus on expertise, be known for something, have a reputation. All of that is super cool. Very, very intrinsically satisfying, right? I mean, it can be rewarding, obviously, as well, but it's a super cool feeling to know, like, hey, I did this. I built something. I have a great team around me. They built something. They're very accomplished. That's just a ton of positive things.
That's interesting. You got to choose the people around you. You got to choose the team this time. Like,
that's the whole point, right? If you're going to own something, these are my choices. It's intentional, and hopefully it works that way. So, number three, building on that, is mentorship, right? If you're the kind of person that enjoys building teams, building things, mentorship is 100% a part of it. And being able to mentor people from being maybe junior level people to mid-level people to senior level people, or watch them grow and develop, their expertise grows, their ability to add value to your organization and to your clients' organizations. Powerful stuff. It's fun to watch.
Dude, that's I'm glad you brought that up. I got to tell you, that's the one thing I would never have guessed when I started an agency that I would enjoy the most by the time I sold it.
Yeah.
The mentorship thing, it's enormous. I mean, it pays back. It pays you back in the heart and the soul
for years too.
Like, it pays you back, and you don't realize that thing.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because we tried not to rabbit hole in these topics. We said we weren't going to, but we're doing it. So I've got multiple examples of people that have either worked for me in an agency as like an intern and then an entry level person, or as a CMO who worked with me in some level, who are now managers, who are growing into their careers. And I take a lot of pride in that. And I'm so proud of those people, because they are clearly super skilled and I had a tiny piece of that in their evolution. And I not just personal pride in it, but it's just so fun to watch. And I think people that really enjoy that would really enjoy ownership, because there is a ton of that, a ton of opportunity for it, at least. Yeah. So
I went back and looked at, I'm rabbit holing again. So I went back and looked at LinkedIn profiles of the people that worked for me back when I had my agency, and just kind of checked up on them. And I went through, and it really feels good seeing that they all moved into these really great leadership roles in
That's
marketing
cool.
or deep level expertise in something, and they're doing well. You can tell they're making good money based on just the role in the companies they're working for. Wow, man, that's payback. So that's a great point. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rabbit hole anymore. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. You're good. My last one is on the same note, but it's culture. We've talked about it before. It's a hot button for both of us. Agencies have a unique culture. There's a ton of creativity. There's a ton of excitement. There's a lot of youth. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of expertise.
Fun, laughter. There's fun, a lot of fun and
There's
laughter.
so much. I 100% drank the Kool-Aid as an agency person. I was all in. I worked a ton. I loved the people around me, and it was challenging and big brands with big expectations, but it was also big brands with big expectations. And how cool is that, And so the culture of and going back to building, you're responsible for building it. You are responsible for the culture of your company. So, like if that is not one of you, frankly, if the bottom three are not your goals, and your goal is number one, an opportunity and revenue, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
So that's my 4. I try to keep it short and sweet. So
that was really good. I think that a way way to think about this is maybe flip it and go, okay, well, you could do a CMO job, right, in a corporation, right? Yep. What's the difference between what you can do there, building a team, and what you can do in an agency? And that a lot of your points you just brought up, there's clear differences, and so that might be what we come back around and talk about, because I think that challenge of why you left corporate and got out of the corporate marketing to do an agency, or if you worked for another agency and went and started, your own, but you weren't in a leadership role, or maybe you're just a mid-level manager. These things are really important. Like, these are major differences from what you were doing.
Yeah, so, for sure. Absolutely.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Why would you own an agency? The positives, right? Number one, create without boundaries. So this is kind of cool. I've found this so true with when I had an agency. My clients listened to me as the expert, and so they would allow us to go outside of their comfort zone. That's sometimes why they hired us, to do really great creative. And although you may not always get 100% freedom in that, but you definitely have more freedom than when you work inside of a company or for another agency. It seems like everything was always restricted in some way, sometimes a lot and sometimes a little.
Yeah, I won't perpetuate the rabbit hole, but this is 100% true. If you are a paid consultant, you are paid to tell them something they don't already know as an agency person. And if you're internal, absolutely, there's so much sort of repression, not repression of creativity per se, but overall the teams get very controlled by the goals of the company. And so you're not necessarily asked to be a creative force all the time. And there's a lot of influence on execution, 100%, no doubt.
Yeah. I like this one. Freedom. Second one I've got, freedom to be you. This is a really interesting one. And I think that
these are good.
Cancel culture is one of the things that have kind of come in and damaged, I think, this environment. But still, to this day, I think it's true that an agency owner can tend to be who they are as a person more. They can relax. They get to set the rules. And usually those rules, if they worked in corporate or a big agency, they come out and relax all of those rules.
Yep.
They don't like that environment. That's why they're doing it a lot of times. And so the freedom to be you, corporate can stifle. It can hold your personality back, keep it reserved, keep it down, because you're trying to fit their culture. And all of a sudden, like going back to your culture one, that is how it's tied, is all of a sudden it's released. It's you freed this and you freed this opportunity for a really cool culture to happen, coming out of a place where you didn't always enjoy the culture.
I love this. Authenticity, the word is just so used and ripe right now. And I think it is a great way to think about your expertise, your your angle in the world from an agency's perspective. Honest truth, I've worked with or for a handful of agencies, either as a CMO hiring them in or as an employee.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, the owner is a beautiful freak show. And while he's a lot, he's also super, super smart, super, super creative, and like brings a lot to the table. And so you're like, yeah, I've said this before with agency owners, your clients buy, especially if you're under 25 people or 50 people, right? They're buying you, the owner. That is the purpose. So if you're, being you and your true self, awesome. That means your clients are going to self-select. The kinds of people who love you are going to pick you, and the kinds that really, really don't, you're better off.
I just had that discussion with in a coaching session last week with an agency owner. I said the agency's you, and it's the people doing the work, but you are doing the selling. You're the face of the agency, and you 100%. Don't think this is true, and it is 100% true. And let's 100%. Talk about how to turn that into something that's going to go well for you, attract new business, get business, and how to promote your agency. And so it's opened up a whole new world for them. But yeah, I think we could talk about that one a lot. My last point is for the challenge of it, that you would own an agency for the challenge of it. And I am very competitive. I will tell you that I did it for the challenge. And to tell you more specifically what I mean by that would be in my career through my early, my 20s and 30s and early 40s, I worked for other people. I worked right next to business owners most of the time. And I watched them do it. I learned from really great people doing it. But having that knowledge over those years, there was something really burning inside, which said, hey, you can do this too. And they're making all the money, going back to your number one, right? You're making all the money, or they're making all the money. You can do that too.
Yep.
You have that knowledge now. I think the challenge of it and the drive to go do this and start an agency is also sometimes so strong that you don't see other things that might come into play, and so we're not going to talk about all those things. We talk about all those things on our other shows, right? Other episodes. But the challenge of it to me is why you would do it, because the challenge to grow something is like, it's a gift. It's a gift of life almost, to be able to take something, start it from scratch, or to take something over, like if you buy a small agency or something and then grow it.
Yeah.
It proves self-worth. And so oftentimes if you work for companies or people who you didn't always feel that you had value to them or the company and the agency, eventually you leave those people and those leaders and you go prove it for yourself. And I think that the challenge of doing this thing is in the drive. You won't stop. You'll work night and day until you get things going, until you get it to where you want to. And I'm very passionate about this one because you can tell it's inside. I've had this several times in my career where the challenge of something is why I leaped off that, and I jumped off the high dive type of thing with the pool with no water in it, and hope to God that I could fill it before I hit the bottom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that challenge thing is a huge part of what makes somebody finally pull the trigger.
Yeah, I really love that. I think between both lists, we really hit on the different types of people. And, a lot of people like to try to pigeonhole people into, one or two categories. You're an introvert, you're an extrovert, you're an alpha, you're a beta, whatever the fuck, answer you use. There's so many people that are like you and I both that are both in a lot of ways. And so what I like about our two lists is we're talking about internal motivations, and some people are very competitive. You definitely are, and more so than me. But we both have the same idea of the satisfaction of building something.
Yeah.
And from either a competitive attitude or an I want to add value to the world attitude, whatever it is, that is 100% a fantastic reason for opening your own shop and hiring people and getting clients and doing great work is
Mm-hmm.
the need to help other people and for that to satisfy you in some way. I mean, I think it's super positive. And hopefully everybody that's listening to this who, works in an agency and wants to own one someday or is an owner currently, they can reflect on this because this is really the driver. For almost everybody that's in the space, for sure. So
yeah. This topic almost could split off into what makes a good agency owner too. But I think the things we just described, if you say yes to most of those or all of them, I would think all of them would be need to be a yes to own an agency. And but I go back to kind of like the background and what makes you. And there's some common traits I see with a lot of successful agency owners.
Yep.
And there's a lot of mediocre agency owners out there. So the difference would be I like building and creating. And that shows in my personal life where I've remodeled 4 to 5 homes, kind of like 4.5. I've remodeled houses. It took them from scratch where they were like really in bad shape. And I wanted to make something beautiful out of them, and I went in and I refinished them. Sometimes it was more foundational type of stuff. And then I built it, and then I did all the way through to the interior and design. Right. And then sometimes it was just, facelift, it was basic facelift stuff. But that background of wanting to do something, it's taking somebody's blog post and you immediately get a red pen and you try to make it better. It's wanting to make everything better around you is really this trait that comes into play for myself. But I've seen that trait, that growth trait, that improvement trait. I guess improvement would be the right word there. Mm-hmm. They want to improve the world around them thing. Those agency owners are highly successful. And I've got some examples of people in my mind where I know that they built upon things over and over and over and created a whole new world around them, in not just like their personal portfolio of wealth and those types of things, but like in a beautiful way, the agency itself, rental properties, and that they rented out, that huge cabins and that they redid and turned into like VRBO, or bed and breakfast type of places. Like everything they touch, they want to make it better and improve it. Those are great agency owners.
That's cool. Yeah. I love that. I think you're right. I mean, I think the examples I see that are great are people that just, the enthusiasm for it is seeping out of their pores, literally. Yeah. And you can see it all over them and all over the people around them. And they have intention, and they really they have a vision for how to add value to their clients' organizations. And they are determined to do it that way, and good or bad, right? Like whatever their direction is, they're determined to try it and make it work. And they expect people around them to help them do that. And I think they're driven people, typically. So, but I love our list today.
Well, going back to the money thing, you're right. If you chose money, you did it for money. I think it's crazy because there's a lot of things you can do in this world that are better money than agency life. It is good profit if you're good at it. And that's the thing. I would tell you that out of 10 people that start agencies, this is a guess. I'm guessing about 1 is highly profitable and successful and continues to grow an agency year over year.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So it does take all the things we mentioned, and and that knowledge of marketing, or online marketing and web
expertise. Yeah,
it does take that knowledge, and that's usually what is your catapult to launch the agency. But it also takes business sense and common sense, and those things have to come into play as well. So if you got that, and the business sense, unfortunately, a lot of people get into owning an agency and they don't have the business sense, but they learn it. and it's something they learn where their weaknesses are as they grow an agency, because the agency world does test you. It tests your skills. It tests your knowledge on business, marketing itself, and the performance for the clients. It tests it on, marketing your own agency, sales, financial. I mean, everything. And that's the challenge thing, right? That's the challenge of it is you can do this for other people all you want. It's not the same as owning it. It is very different. But I love that part. That's the part that made me go. I felt like I was learning something new every day. And that thing went off in my head that said, hey, that's how I need to make sure I keep my employees too, is because I realized how important it was for me to learn every day. It's important for them to learn every day too.
Yeah. For me, it was the community of it and the vibe, the people. I really enjoy talking about this stuff and living it and breathing it every single day.
Did you feel cool? Is that the word? Did you feel cool?
I felt cool all the time. Absolutely. Because in my book, I was just like, I love this stuff. Like I said, I was like, I live and breathe it every day. And so, I'm paid to live and breathe it on someone's behalf. And I'm surrounded by people who are going to do the same thing. And if we're all working together, we can create something really cool and very interesting and totally new. That is incredibly exciting for me. And so I think that there's a lot of, community in this. And when you're the owner of it, there's a lot of pride in that. There's just a tremendous amount of pride in that. And striving to be better. You're exactly right. I mean, I think that's a big part of it. So,
you talk about the pride side. It is very true on the pride. But the other day, I was driving around town running errands, and I looked over and I saw a service van for a wood flooring company that I did work for, and it was the same design that my designers did on the van. And the same slogans, the same, everything. And I remember when that person had 2 or 3 vans. They redid hardwood floors. They had 2 or 3 vans. And I think by the time they were done, they were closer, like that I left in 2018. I think they were like somewhere, around, 30, 40. I mean, could have been as high as 50. Like they had really grown. But I can't hardly go anywhere today in Kansas City right now and not see a service van of some sort, a heating, cooling company, plumbing, companies, electrical, interior design, type of companies. I see my work everywhere, and in my agency's work, not just my work. And that pride thing comes in, and I'm just going, wow. When I talk about that improvement and you put your stamp on the world thing, and I see it visually all around. And then I know that the people that I worked with and the owners who trusted me, I thank them from the bottom of my heart. I thank them for trusting me. And I go, wow, we built it. We built a lot of things together when we did it. We created jobs for people. We improved people's homes, their lives. I mean, you start thinking about the non-monetary things like that you did that you can really pat yourself on the back with, and that is huge payback. So you talk about the employee side of payback of mentoring, and I think about that side as well. So really, the feel good about being an agency owner, it comes in all different forms, shapes, and sizes, and places 100%. That I can't. If we did as many episodes on these things, we could probably easily do as many episodes on the positive things as we do the challenges that you run into. And, as an agency owner, I think we'd come up with a lot.
Yeah. I think that take this next step, right? If you're listening to this or watching this, drop a comment here. Tell us, what are the positives that you see? What are the challenges that you see? Because we talk about this stuff all the time. And we'd love to hear your perspective. We'd love to hear something different that you find to be challenging or to be rewarding, either way. Because, like I said earlier, we literally do live and breathe this stuff, and we talk about it all the time. And there are a tremendous amount of challenges, but there are also a tremendous amount of positives and rewards. And we would love to talk about more of those for sure. So yeah, drop a comment here. Tell us all about it, because we would really love to hear from you.
Yeah. I think this is the part why I love what I do right now is that I can coach them through the challenges they're having, and then that time where they decide they're going to exit the business or sell the agency.
Yep.
That piece of it, it is important, like for people to sell it, make money and profit and retire, or have money to go do something else they want to do. But it is one of the positives is that you can have a good amount of cash flow coming into the business, make a good living, and have a bulk of money at the end of that road and that journey.
Yeah.
So that part is a part I kind of specialize in, which is like, hey, let's get there. Let's do it. Let's make sure we make the right decisions. And there's a pot of gold there at the end where you can walk away and feel good about how it ended also.
Yeah.
So I think it's about the journey and all the things we just talked about.
For sure.
And the end of that road, you know, leaving with respecting yourself. I don't know how to say it. You're like, it's important.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I love it. That's you're absolutely right. I mean, if there's a time to get out of it, and that time has come, the work you do coaching people and then helping them, at the end, is incredibly valuable, because actually it's a really, really complex road to sell your business, and you really ought not to do it alone, because it is a trap if you do. And having watched you, help people and talk about it all the time, and you've done it yourself, like it's great perspective to have when you get into that. So,
Yep.
Especially if you got to a place where you're like, hey, look, all those positives used to be true for me. I'm at a place in my life, they're not as true for me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? Honestly, then you probably should get out of the business. And whether that is bring in a managing director to run it for you and step out a little bit, or it's to sell your business. Because if you're not getting those kinds of things out of it, you know what, it's probably time to move on and find something else in your life where you can, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. And when you sell it to somebody who is ready to do all the things we just talked about.
absolutely, somebody who's got that passion for that you had when you did it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so you do it for the right reasons. You do it for the employees. You do it for the clients. You do it for putting new energy into the business. So fantastic list. I think that's all the time we got for today. But I hope you enjoyed that list. And like Trice said, comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And don't forget to subscribe so you get all the exciting episodes, even the ones with Trice's snoring dog in it. So,
and I'm sure there are many.
All right. See you next time.
Take care.